You see the slides now? Yeah, thumbs up. Okay, just making sure. We'll see if I can manage slides and talking at the same time. I mean, that's kind of a hard thing to do, right? Okay, so about 10 years ago, I was asked a simple question. What brings you joy? In that moment, I had nothing, not one single clue, nothing, nada, zilch. Ultimately, this question in that moment brought me to my knees. How could I not answer it? I had 3 wonderful kids, a couple of fur babies, my husband's love language is service, and finally finished at the time my teacher certification. I truly had it all, except for now I sent the kids off on their first day of new school year and found myself sitting alone in my backyard sobbing. You might think this lasted a day, maybe 2. After all, I'm the one who would always say I'm not a crier, but no, it was a 6-week brutal process. Now, how did I get here? Let's go back for a moment. Well, I didn't get the teaching job that I was sure I had because the principal changed. Never in my life I had 6 weeks of doing nothing, not even a day. Heck, I even won an award the year before for volunteering 250 plus hours at the kids' school. Who does that? I had always worked, raised kids, volunteered, led women's ministries. I was a wife. I overdid everything for everyone else but me. I thought I had it all figured out, but then life did not go according to my well laid out plan and it wrecked me. So I beat myself up for being in that place really bad because what I couldn't reconcile was the fact that I lived in my car at 18 to escape severe abuse. So why could I not handle getting a job? In retrospect, fast forward a decade, those 6 weeks were the most influential, pivotal moments in my life because they allowed me to redefine myself, find my worth, and to know truly who I am as Amy. And they allowed me to be standing here today knowing I'm right where God asked me to be, teaching what I've learned. So I want everyone here to know that you can design a life you love by applying just 4 guiding principles. So principle number 1 is you've got to discover your reality. What makes knowing your current status important? What is your current status right now in your now? Think about that for a moment. Are you having one of those mornings kind of like Kate, where everything is hitting her going wrong with tech? Are you like not being able to find the energy because it's yet another Monday morning? Do you get the mid-afternoon lulls, need a nap, hope the caffeine in front of you gets you energized to get you through yet another workshop? Or are you energized, eager to learn, and ready to finally find purpose, balance, and connections? Pretty sure we all need to find some energy this Monday morning. So there's 3 components of your current reality. You have to acknowledge where you are currently in life. The best part about this is you can change anything you want. You can completely erase any area you do not like, you're not fulfilled in, and you can rewrite your stories. You can also enhance, spend more time on, and focus on things you're already good at. There are no right or wrong rules here. It's simply knowing where you stand right here in this moment. So in your workbook, and then I can also send a link for a digital one, there is an activity called the Thrive Life Inventory. It looks at 10 domains of life: physical health, emotional health, wisdom, marriage, purpose, financial, parenting, spiritual, social, and adventure. So why do we need to look at these? We cannot be at the top of our A game, especially as business owners and supervisors and being wife, mom, sister, daughter, friend, all the things that we have to be, right? In all 10 of these areas at the same time. But you've got to know where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. Because we are often have an underlying beating ourselves up for what we're not getting right in these 10 areas, right? And we're going to talk more about that, but we have to figure out how to find our balance. And I almost hate the word balance because it feels like all 10 should be balanced and equally going. And that is not reality. So number 3 are the components of your current reality. You have to accept your reality. You have to accept where you're at in those 10 areas. Just let it be what it is. So I had reached the accepting point of my reality sitting in that backyard. I now had a plan forward and I was going to go to grad school. Can you tell I like a plan? But I was going to go to grad school and become a counselor, which is what I had said on my wedding video that I wanted to do another decade before. And walking out of grad school, when I got the call, I literally was walking out the door from the interview when I got the call that I got the teaching job. One more thing not going according to plan. But I accepted that assignment for the teaching job and had the best year ever. But ultimately, it was just another lesson. So I wouldn't wonder what I was supposed to be doing in my life. I had doctors' kids next to homeless kids, so many social issues, I couldn't even count them. And I truly loved every minute of it. But my reality was, I just wanted to talk to those kids and not necessarily teach them to read. I didn't think that was good. So I pivoted again. I started grad school the same night as the last day of school to become a counselor. For me, I had to accept that my identity wasn't tied to me as a teacher, a mom, a wife, a volunteer, daughter, nurse, chauffeur, or even the dog poop picker-upper. So when you go through the Thrive Life inventory, you're going to just simply know. Have you heard the saying, knowledge is power? It truly is. But there's more power in accepting what you know than acting on it. So today, when you leave here, you're going to leave here with all 3: knowledge, acceptance, and an action plan. Okay. If you have questions along the way, you can pop them in the chat and I'll just try to answer them as well. Principle number 2. What else do you need to know before you can get to your purposeful week? You've got to discover your core values. Now, what makes your core values important? And as counselors, I think you probably know some of what I'm saying to you, but I want you to take that hat off and think of yourself as a leader and a business owner. Does your business have core values? Do you have them listed? Do you know what makes your yeses or your nos? Do they align with what you're doing? So core values are the fundamental beliefs of a person. They're your guiding principles that dictate behavior and can help people understand the difference between right and wrong, right? Core values also help you determine if you're on the right path. They're going to help you fulfill your goals by creating an unwavering guide. So during grad school, I had a job that led me to do my internships there. I thought I would never leave until a new leader came in. It became very quickly clear to me that our values didn't align, even though I didn't think of it this way at the time. But as time went on, I distanced myself and just did my thing as a counselor until one day a conversation happened that honestly ticked me off, which is hard to do because I could take things as they come type of gal. Upon reflection, it was because I was hit with a gut punch on a core value that I had held very high in my life, integrity. It became very clear to me in that moment that I would need to make a change because everything in my body was screaming at me that something was wrong. So I Googled counselor space for rent in Cypress, Texas, and here I am 5.5 years later. All came down to that core value. But there are 3 phases of value application. The impact of your values. In our day-to-day life, we don't sit and think, oh, I wonder what value of mine is impacting this relationship. Is it my negative thoughts? my latest choices, the decisions in front of me, or how I do my job? I mean, when's the last time you went to dinner with someone and said, hey, can we talk about our core values? Like, it just doesn't happen. It is just the natural flow of how we go about the rhythms of our day. However, the impact of your values is most important part of determining who you are, how you do things, what you do. Your core values answer your whys, where you place your priorities, and the choices that you make. Number 2 phase of value application, and there's a core values exercise in the workbook as well to help you narrow it down. Impact of living outside your values. What happens when you don't know where your values are, your true north, and you start, or even if you do, you start living outside them? You're going to know exactly when you're living outside your values. You probably just never thought of it this way. It is that feeling in your gut that something doesn't feel right, that stress, anxiety that you feel all over your body, leaves your brain going at 1,000 miles an hour, headache, stomach ache, racing heart, sweating palms, all those things that happen when your body is trying to tell your brain something is not right. It's not aligning with who you are. It's also when you're living outside your values, you're not happy. Your negative thoughts take over and the downward spiral begins. Because we don't think about our values in the day-to-day, we don't even realize that they are the core of everything happening in your life. Number 3 phase, impact of living inside your values. When you're living inside your values, everything changes for you. It allows you to stop and ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Because the downward spiral takes over. Because honestly, that pit is harder to climb out of. It also allows you to align your yeses and nos. So for every yes, there is a no to someone or something. You've got to choose wisely. So if I am going to go say, let's say I'm going to say yes to speaking at Kate's presentation. The first thing I do is say, first of all, what is the someone or something I'm going to say no to? For me today, I have and you'll learn in the Purposeful Week, I have a very strict morning routine. I had to say no to my morning routine to be here today. Okay, on occasion, that can happen. But if I'm doing that every day, my life gets topsy-turvy and I cannot manage all the things that I have to do. But my yes, and the reason I wanted to say yes was bigger than my no. It was okay for me to say no to me this morning. It's okay. I'll make it up tomorrow. But my yes was that I really fully believe that if people could start figuring out how to live in their purposeful week, you truly can have it all. You truly can. I run 3 businesses and I work less than 40 hours a week. No lie. I was literally in Michael Hyatt's latest book, When It Works, Succeed at Life, because I put this into action. And it all came down to this week I'm going to talk to you about. And it also had to do with my core values. Did this talk today align with my core value? Yes, because one of them is community. Not just my internal community at the counseling center, but our external community as counselors and in Cypress, Texas. But if it doesn't hit a yes in one of my values, and my no is bigger than my someone or something, then my answer would be no. Does that make sense? When you have time later, go through the core values exercise. It's really powerful. If you haven't done it in a while, it could blow your mind because you may think you know what they are, but we change over time. Okay. Let's talk. I want to make sure I'm running on time. Principle number 3. Let's talk about that purposeful week. What makes that week important? When you start putting your purposeful week plan into action, you gain automatic clarity on your life's purpose, build meaningful relationships with yourself and others. So I mentioned that I was in Michael Hyatt's latest book, When It Works, Succeed at Life. When I first started working with Michael Hyatt, I was working 80 plus hours a week at the counseling center. The business was running me. Now I own my business. I don't run it. There's a big difference in that. I literally went from 80 hours to 4 hours a week. Yeah, I have help. I have to do all the things I want to do. I have to put everything within a purposeful week and to be balanced where I want to be for me in the 10 areas, which means I hit about 6 of them pretty well. I had to shift some things and change some things. We have 18 counselors and growing. I have help, but the counseling center runs itself. The policies, procedures, processes, they are down to a fine art. And really, my director of operations only works 10 hours a week in that role. The counseling center runs itself, all because we got really clear on what my purposeful week was, which allowed me to open another business that serves online women, designing a life that they love. It allows me to do high performance business coaching, and it's going to allow me to write that book later this year. So what 3 areas do you need to plan to do the same thing? Here are your 3 areas. You got to have a time for work. You got to have it. You got to have a time for self, and you got to have a time for relationships. Quite often, our focus is only in one of these areas. We have to even them out. But I want to say one thing to you right now, and I want you to hear me as we go through building your purposeful week. All things do not balance equally. You have to determine what balance looks like for you. Specifically, what do you align with? What is your reality, your core values, and your non-negotiables? Okay, so there's 3 components of a week. My oldest daughter loved theater and was performing on the balcony in our home from the time she could put on a costume, talk, sing, and dance. We would watch show after show after show that she was constantly performing. As she grew older, this love of performing never left her. In fact, in high school, she was the president of the theater. To say she was in love with theater was an understatement. Now, as someone who knows nothing about theater, this was a fascinating learning experience. In fact, something I learned by watching her applies to you here today. Everyone watches the final production, the gorgeous costumes, the stunning scenery, singing, dancing, sitting in awe of the talent of our children. But it's what they don't see that's most important. It's the things that happen off stage, backstage, and the amazing front stage production. So let's apply this to your purposeful week. The first thing you're going to look at, and I put a purposeful week calendar. There's several in the workbook that are more pages in there, and there's one that's just all on one page. I really want you to print 3 of these. And what I want you to do is I want you to do one that's your current reality. You're going to fill out everything you've currently got on your calendar. Then I want you to do another one where it's where you want to be. Where do you want to live? Even if it's not true, do it as if it happened. So that means if you want more time with your family, but you're seeing clients until 7, 8 o'clock at night, well, you got to back up your purposeful week to where you're leaving at 4, right? Or whatever works for you. Or maybe you're doing 2 or 3 nights, but maybe you just need to be doing 1. You have to figure out where your values and what you want out of life do and align. So the front stage is going to be in your 3rd one. This is the activities where you're performing in your job. Speaking to students, parents, you're at events, things you do when you have to be forward facing, interacting with each other, performing. It's usually the things you're paid to do. This is your front stage. For me, my front stage activities are only on Mondays and Tuesdays. Once a month, they're on Thursdays when I record a podcast. So I have built my days It took me a while to get here. Don't get me wrong. I was working 80 hours a week. That thing was ugly. There wasn't even enough place on the page to put what I was doing every week. So just know as you're going through it, it's really good to try to batch your front stage, backstage, and off stage time. Okay. Backstage. These are your invisible activities, the ones everyone doesn't see, but they're crucial. The quality of your front stage work is dependent on the backstage work. The backstage is where you prepare everything. It's your meetings, your lessons, your reports, your client notes, at home, the laundry, meal plan cleaning, coordinating schedules with work and relationships. Your delegation happens here. Development of self, both personal and professional. That's your backstage work, right? All those things that have to happen that nobody sees. And then off stage. This is the one that does not have an element of work in it. This is not take my work home with me. Your offstage activities allow for rejuvenation, but you have to have time to plan this time. You got to find the time in your calendar. This is date night, relaxation, walking in nature, working out, creating a space where you do not think about work. Now, when it comes time to doing the activity of building your purposeful week, I really want you to think about planning that front stage, backstage, off stage. And sometimes it's helpful just to make a list of what those are. And I'm going to be honest, it's overwhelming. If you're anything like I was doing, it is overwhelming in the beginning. And you're going to think there is no way I can get over here. I'm going to be honest. It took me about 9 to 12 months to actually get into my ideal week. And now I look at it every quarter and I change it again, and I change it again, and I change it again until I get it to where I want to go. But I also add things in, but now I know this is my North Star. If I can look at my ideal week and I say, okay, I want to write a book. Well, I have to have a place to put it. And that means something else is probably going to have to go. So I have a hard decision to make. But what or who am I going to say no to? So when you're building your future one, the one you want to get to, you've got to put your non-negotiables on first. Non-negotiables. What are yours? Mine are that date night with my husband. Now I'm empty nesting, so I'm in a different season. But when I did this, I was not. I had 3 very, very busy teenagers when I started learning how to do this. We were gone every night of every week doing something, and most weekends, sports, theater, something. You can do it no matter what your life looks like. You just have to decide what's right for you and what you want. But your non-negotiables mine were, I wanted to be there for my kids' events. That meant I could no longer say yes to clients after a certain time. And you know what? Somebody kind of inadvertently gave me permission for that. And it's something that I have learned. I'm very good at getting clients to come during the day, even children. Full schedule, the counseling center now, all 17, full all day long. So I do not believe you have to work at night if you do not want to work at night, because I've done it. I've seen it done. Even children, even those high school kids who hardly ever get off school, there's ways. But here's the thing. I called for counseling for one of my children, my theater daughter, actually. And with her schedule, she was very limited in her time of when she could actually go, because you can't just skip theater without it being a backlash. And the counselor that I wanted her to go to said this to me. I'm like, she's going to have after 4, and it's going to have to be on these nights. And I was that parent. And they said to me, yeah, I can't do that because after 4, I become mom. And I went, oh, that was kind of a smack in the face because it hit home, right? And I'm like, if she's doing that, why am I not doing that? Why do I not get to become mom? and still have a counseling center. So sometimes mine may not look like yours, but I think you get the point. That's when I started shifting. Now, it took me a while to have clients fall off. I just didn't replace them. I hired someone. They went somewhere else. But you can just also have part of your day be front stage and backstage, right? So on Thursdays, when I have to be front stage for podcast interviews, that morning is all backstage. You're going to put your current commitments in, work hours, kids' activities, whatever it is. And then you got to plan for your rejuvenation. Now, a few things might happen here. You may not have space left that isn't for someone or something else besides yourself. You will have to ask yourself some hard questions if you truly want to live the Thrive life. What stays, what goes? You really should start to add in your non-negotiables into your week. Whether you do this week or not, start adding them in. Small steps often, one at a time. I did it backwards because the first time through, it was easier. I could do a multi-day workshop just to get you comfortable in this purposeful week. But I did the next best thing and gave you a blank one so that you can make copies. And I want to tell you this. When I first started learning the purposeful week, and I was working, Michael Hyatt was coaching me for business. And I was very frustrated with this because I could never achieve it. I'm a very high achiever, if you haven't noticed. I couldn't achieve it. I could not get 100% accuracy. And he looked at me, he goes, did you get 80% is actually like 100? And if you're doing 80% of the time in your purposeful week because life happens, you're doing really good. Well, at the time I was doing like 30 or 40% in my purposeful week. That gave me the freedom to be flexible, to know that it can change. Most weeks I live within my set out week. I have it time blocked for if I need to be creative and write. That uses a different side of my brain than the one that's Financial Friday. I don't go back and forth in chaos anymore between different types of activities. If I need to be counseling or coaching, that uses another part of my brain than the creative one. So they're all blocked together. That will help you be more efficient, more purposeful, and more productive. All right, last principle, and then we'll go to questions. Discover your future. So what makes uncovering your future desire important? For me, it comes back full circle, back to my absolute love for a future plan. You have to know where you're going before you can attempt to get there. I do it differently now. It's going to look differently for each of us based on your core values. But for me, I take the time to know exactly who I am and who Christ says I am. I'm a bit obsessive about my calendar. I run all my yeses through questions we talked about earlier. And most importantly, I realize that life happens and I will have to adjust. For instance, April 20th, 2020, life happened to me and everything I had planned and thought I was doing was thrown out the window, and none of this was pandemic related. We already had telehealth at the counseling center for college kids. We hadn't really advertised it, but kids that had grown with us and went to college, we had it. So that was just a click of a button for us. But I could not work for 4 months due to a mental health crisis in my own house. I could not leave my house for safety reasons. My husband lost his job of 35 years. My mother-in-law passed away. My husband's best friend passed away. I burned down a successful online business in the marriage realm because it was draining me and not energizing me. And the list goes on and on and on over those 4 months. Sometimes I have to pull out the purposeful week and do it 1 week at a time based on what's going on in my life or what unexpected things happen. But I still create one, or else time's just going to fly out the window, scrolling things that don't really help me. And then I can't live with purpose, balance, or connection. For instance, real time. I'm traveling actually tomorrow I have a course going on, and I have a live, my 8th final live tomorrow. And then I leave 30 minutes later to hop a plane to Orlando to give a presentation tomorrow at a marketing event, an online marketers event. Then I come home Saturday from this event. I work all day Monday, leaving in Tuesday for 11 days. And I do high performance coaching once a quarter for Michael Hyatt for his high level business group. And I'll be gone 11 days. Well, my weeks just got thrown out the window. Now I know it's coming, but I tell you, I have an ideal week for each of those so that I get my non-negotiables in, even when I'm traveling. So living with purpose is the why you do what you do. Live within your core values helps you define and design a life with purpose. Living with balance is the what you do. And a balanced lifestyle is simply a state of being in which one has time and energy for obligations and pleasures. It's kind of like your pieces of the puzzles. Your pieces come together to form the person that you are. You work and play. You rest and expend energy. You find joy. You feel sorrow. Balance is the state that you achieve when all the aspects of your life and self are in harmony. While balance is necessary to have satisfying, energetic, joyful life, only you can determine what that balance means to you. And remember, balance does not mean everything is equal. And living with connection. This is who you do what you do with. Living within the purposeful week helps you to build deep connected relationships because you are now intentionally planning for a time to connect and deepen the relationships that are most valuable to you. And it's okay to be selective. In the workbook, you can do this if you'd like. You can take all this information, work through all the exercises. And my favorite activity when I learn something new is to build a 90-day plan of action. What challenges are you facing? Conflicts? What questions are you facing? Notes from what I've learned, insights, breakthroughs, how to apply what you've learned today. I gave you a step-by-step so that you can plan how to build your purposeful week into your life, because you really have 4 guiding principles to discover your future. You got to discover your reality. You're leaving here today knowing exactly where you stand in 10 life domains and what you want to work on. Your values. You know exactly what your top core values are and how to apply them in your life. And your purposeful week. You're leaving here with a purposeful week you can revisit and use to meet your goals with intention. And discover your future. You're leaving here today having designed a life you love with purpose, balance, and connection. Well, you're actually leaving here with the workbook so that you can go do it because we did not have enough time. So I know I went fast. I'm going to stop the slides